DC Boxing Legends podcast, past and present. I'm here with a special guest, y'all. Special guest today, we have Ray Leonard Jr. Ray Leonard Jr. is the son of the legend of all legends from Washington, D.C., Sugar Ray Leonard. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Ray Leonard Jr. How's it going, brother?
Good. Thanks for having me on. How you doing back there?
I'm doing great, brother.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. I miss the hometown.
Yes, indeed, man. What was it like growing up under the guidance and having a world champion as a father?
Man, it was insane, to look back on it right now, where I am right now. You never thought, from coming from a teenage mother and father, that we would get to where we got to. I was 3 years old. My father won the '76 Olympics, and all of a sudden, man, with the things started moving so quickly that we had to learn on the fly how to really deal with life. We came from an area that we didn't really know how to deal with a lot of the stuff that was being thrown at us. So we out there meeting with kings and queens and meeting with dignitaries from all over the world. We're traveling, where our faces all on TV. You got people knowing who you are. Every time you walk out the house, you got paparazzi sitting out front of the house. So it was a whole different, thing to get used to, but that's the only life I knew, So,
right.
It gives you some perspective when you get older, so you can look back on it. But, I had it was a bunch of great experiences, man. My education of learning, how to deal with people from all over the world, from traveling and meeting people with different backgrounds and cultures, and then, watching your father in the ring.
Right.
that was a crazy piece, to sit there and be at all the fights and, watching why people cheering or booing or whatever was going on. But so, it's something I look back on with pride now.
Is it true that your father, when you were born, because of paparazzi and the media, he had to keep you a secret?
Well, yeah. It wasn't really about the paparazzi.
Okay.
But when I was born, there was really no money being made, and he was still an amateur.
Okay.
And the thing was that they wanted to make sure that my mother could still get the welfare check. But she said, but he had to not know where a kid was.
Okay.
So for that to happen. So that's why that was a big secret in the beginning.
Okay. I grew up, when I was coming up, I came out of Hillcrest Boxing Gym under the guidance of Tom Browner, who was also a partner with Dave Jacobs.
Right.
And Dave Jacobs was in the gym with us every day, and Ray Leonard just came up constantly. And he definitely, we learned so much from Dave Jacobs. He always used your father as like a guidance for us to follow, in the footsteps of his, and he's like a father figure to us, and I'm sure he's a father figure to your father.
Yeah. We love that Dave, man. He was, one of the in the very beginning, one of like the mainstays that gave my father not just advice on how to beat somebody in the ring, but on life. When you have someone like that you look up to and gives you some guidance, especially when you're dealing with stuff that you don't really know how to deal with. It's always good to look back on some wisdom. But he talked about Dave, and he was over at Hillcrest, and all the great gyms around there, the round ones and stuff like that. Man, it's there's so many great legends and people that came from. But I'm glad you recognizing some of the great trainers that was there. He was a big part of our life.
Yes, indeed, man. I knew some of his friends also, like Claude, JD, and you had Juice, all those guys,
Yep.
They definitely still, every time Ray comes to town, he always grabs them up and bring them around with him. Your father always grabs them up and takes them around, and we able to get access to them through them.
Yeah, and so he does that, and he goes to the gym, goes make sure he goes to the gym and check out Claude and Juice and all those cats. It's cool that you can go back home and still have some of the friends and people that were a part of your life still around, that he can hang out with. And the thing about Claude and them, I mean, they always been there supporting him.
Yes,
for
indeed.
my father, they always been supporting him, and so it shows. It shows when you go back and you want to be a part of your people and be around your folks.
Yes, indeed. So I'm understanding now you are a motivational speaker.
Yeah, I'm actually a man of many hats right now. I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I have a consulting company that we do organizational development and diversity training, and then I'm also a motivational speaker, which happened kind of happenstance because my father got to the motivational speaker business after his career, and I never thought I would be doing it at all. But it started just out of me for the love of wanting to share whatever knowledge or information that I had with other people.
Right.
So I started just talking to the kids at the high schools, and then the Navy asked me to come and speak in San Diego at the base, and they continuously started asking me to do it again and again. So I said maybe there is something to it. Maybe I'm making a difference.
Right.
So that's kind of my basis from what I do for the motivational speaking side. Is I just love to do it because I'm making a difference.
Yeah, I've watched several of your videos, and I was very impressed, and I appreciate the job that you're doing for the youth, man. Continue up the great work, man, and continue to bless the people because you've been blessed, and I'm sure it's great to be able to give the wisdom because you've seen it on many levels, at such a young age,
Right. Yeah, I mean, no one does any of this by themselves, and it's always, my grandfather always told me, when you know better, you do better. And so, imparting information on the young folks or even the older folks that's still trying to find their way, it's our duty to do that. You can't call yourself educated or call yourself to having wisdom if you're not willing to share it. So, that's my thought process with it.
Now, explain the experience of the famous moments when you were on the 7-Up commercial, man. That was
that joint was crazy. So there's a whole background story to that. So I had never done anything like that or on camera or anything, so I was kind of reluctant to do it. And so my father was like, you know what, this is going to be good for us, so you're going to be on camera. I was a shy, introverted kid. I didn't really want to be famous, and I kind of shied away from a lot of the stuff because it was just a whole lot, to be around it. So he had to actually bribe me to do the commercial.
Okay.
And so I said, if you give me a 3-wheel motorcycle, because they had just the 3-wheel motorcycle just came out. I said, give me a 3-wheel motorcycle, and I'd do it.
That worked.
I got the 3-wheel motorcycle, and that was actually one of the best decisions that I got conned into in my life. So I mean, I look back on it, my kids see it, and even nowadays, people are like, "Oh, you did 7-Up kid."
Yes, indeed, man.
Yeah, so I sat there, man. We filmed for 17 hours, and I drank so much 7-Up during that time, man.
Man, when I think of you as 7-Up comes to mind every time, man. That's just nature's been. I saw it my whole life, so
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have your little place in history, and say that you made a mark and you did something that's left and that left a big impression on people. So, I enjoy it.
Yes, indeed, man. This is a question for something that may help the future of boxing in Washington, D.C. Explain the training routines and what you learned from watching your dad train and how he prepared himself for fights.
So, man, that was the major difference. He always said, you don't play boxing. Boxing has to be your life. And that's how he lived it. And he wanted to not just be a champion, but he wanted to be special. That was, he always say, not just to be a champion, but I just want to be special. And so that was like the motivation to keep him going and keep him wanting to still be on top even when he had success. Even when he was a young kid, before he was going to the Olympics, he would run behind the school bus to school.
Wow.
Every morning and go shower at school and then run back after school and then go to the gym.
Wow.
So that same kind of dedication went over into the training. I mean, training, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, running 5-6 miles, Coming back after that, doing training camp, eating breakfast, and then going. It was almost like two or three a days. So he'd be in the gym. We're not in the gym. We watch a film.
Okay.
So it'll be myself, my father, his brother Roger, my grandfather, and we sitting there watching the film of the different fighters or the fighters that he's going to fight against, and just and kind of dissecting them, because everything he did was mostly cerebral in the ring.
What was one of the moments of watching your dad that helped inspire you to be the person that you end up being today?
Man, I tell you, the one fight that really inspired me and showed the heart and the will was when he fought Thomas Hearns. And he fight Tommy Hearns, and then he's behind on the scorecards after 12 rounds. And Angelo done details him, say, "You blowing it, kids, you blowing it." And he goes out there and just giving it everything he had. And so, and I see him. I got to see him after the fight all the time. Go to the room, and you see the toll that would take on a body, and just physically and mentally to fight 15 rounds. 14, 15 rounds back then.
Yes.
And that was just the inspiration. I said, if you're willing to put your body through such pain and come back and still be gracious about it, it's a life lesson, man. So it was, you can get what you want, but you got to put the work in.
That's right. That's a true factor, man, and that applies to life itself today. And that's one of the tools that I use through my boxing life was when you learn from your mistakes, you can grow from them.
Right.
And especially going to like national tournaments. If you lose it as an amateur, you can take a loss, but through that loss, you learn from it. The pros are a little different. You can lose, but it's not. It can't be as frequent as it is as an amateur.
Yeah, that's changed, quite a bit. Nowadays, I think a lot of the fighters want to protect their records for so much that they're unwilling to take a risk.
That's true.
But if you want to be great, you got to go up against the greatest.
Yes, indeed.
And not be afraid to do that. And
that's definitely the era that your father came from, because they didn't duck each other for nothing.
Yeah, man. All of them, they wanted to say, "Hey, I'm the best."
Yeah.
And they wanted to rumble each other at any weight class. I mean, you're talking about, going from Duran was at a lightweight, it came up to welterweight, welterweight up to light heavyweight. You got these guys that they're not really that big, that size, but they were willing to go in the ring.
Yes, indeed, man. So, I'm sure you remember during the Hagler. That was considered at that time was the original, one of the original super fights. Explain the energy that you felt during that time, and what do you remember about that night?
Man, so that the whole thing leading up to this fight, it was just crazy, because folks thought there was no way my father had a chance, that he wouldn't survive at all. Going to school, I'm playing the basketball game, and I'm sitting at the free throw line, and the whole crowd is yelling Hagler.
What?
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm just trying to shoot a free throw.
Right.
What you talking about, man? Come on. But that's the energy when you have a super fight like that, and the build up, and then you can just tell the energy. And before the fight, I knew women sitting in the back in the dressing room. I knew how locked in my father was. He was just so focused, and knew in his heart of hearts that he could beat him,
right,
style wise, and everything that he had done before. I mean, he studied Hagler so much that you watch in the fight, he'll run to the middle of the ring before Hagler got to get to the ring, because Hagler thought that was good luck. Yeah. So little things like that, when you pay attention to stuff like that, and then you got the crowd, celebrities. Back then, boxing was a thing and a place to be in Vegas.
Yes, indeed.
So we get there, and we couldn't leave the room, because it was just crazy as far as the fans and everything.
Okay.
And the energy was crazy. I sat in the back. I couldn't even. Mike Trainer, my father's attorney, and I sat in the back and watched it in the back and scored it from the back in the dressing room. So it was just that crazy.
Wow.
But, after the fight, he got on his bodyguard's shoulders, and walked through Caesar's Palace.
Ooh.
After the fight. And then the crowd, I mean, that was the craziest thing. Everybody swarmed and they were just all love.
Yes, indeed. Man, I remember that night from watching it from TV. The whole town was just jumping up and down, man. We was so excited that night to see, our hometown, King get it done. You know what I'm saying? Get it done. And told him he was going to get it done. Said, I can beat this guy. We was definitely impressed. And that's one of the memories of him, and a lot of these youngers can learn from him. It's styles make fights.
Right.
And if you find a chink in the armor, go for it.
That's exactly what it was. He found a chink in the armor, because it took so long for the fight to come together. It was supposed to come together back in 82, but he had to detach retina from Hearns. And so, it had to be postponed. So never thought it would happen. But when it came together, man, it was just electric.
Yes, it was.
So, yeah.
What advice do you have for the youth? You personally have for the youth yourself? Because I know you've been a motivator.
Right.
What words would you have to give for DC boxing future legends?
So, man, that's a good question. So my advice is to follow your dream and put everything you have into it. Believe in yourself, because we get knocked down so much. I mean, especially if you in the boxing game or coming up from DC and Maryland, you'll get knocked down quite a bit. So it's hard to keep that faith, to keep that self-esteem. But if you keep your eyes on the prize, if you stay focused on your goal, and you believe the people, keep good people around you. You associate yourself with people that want, the best out of you as well. That's how you put yourself in a better situation, to educate yourself, not just on the sport of boxing, but the business of boxing.
Yes,
that's one of the major keys too, because you got to take care of what you earn to do. And so that's always one of my advice to young folks, especially the young boxers, is, man, know about your money.
That's
and
right.
Stay focused on your craft. Don't get distracted. If you want to be great, you can't be a part-time boxer.
That's right. DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley was one of your father's fighters.
Right.
And he talked about how Ray would sit him down and talk about, how to speak, everything, how to speak on the mic, how to conduct yourself. Your father was very big on appearance and personality and the business aspect of it. From my studies of your father, he was one of the original ones managing himself. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And Chop Chop, that's my man. So and he took the advice to heart. From how he carried himself and how he separated himself. So how it all started. And so Don King was originally trying to get him signed my father and had a bag of money, for him. And when you're coming from DC and you ain't really got much, it's real tempting to take that first thing.
That's real.
But he had enough belief in himself and had good advice from people that were around him. That's why I said surround yourself with good people that said, here, let's try it this way. So Mike Trainer got 30 people, his attorney got 30 people together to invest $1,000 a piece.
Wow.
And they said, okay, here, this to get you started as a professional. We took that money, incorporated him into Sugar Ray Leonard Inc. After the first fight, he made $40,000 on his first fight, so he paid everybody back with interest and was a free agent. So he wasn't beholden to nobody.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then the name was big because of the Olympics. So when he would either partner with a promoter in a different city and promote the fight himself, or just do it all, or buy the tickets out, or buy whatever out and do it himself, because he get the TV revenue, and we still own a lot of the TV footage.
That's great, man. And you hear this young people. Business is just as important as you running every day. It's maybe much more. Actually, it's hard to say that. They come hand in hand, because you have to know business of the future boxing, DC boxers. Ray understood that it's longevity, had a family to feed, and he was thinking about generational wealth opposed to wealth for the moment. because he learned from the mistakes of a lot of the other fighters that came before him.
Right.
One other question I had for you. What was the moment when you saw your father on his down point, well, at his worst?
Well, at his worst, man, that was towards the end when the last, well, as far as boxing was, it was that last fight with Hector Camacho. And Chop Chop, and he was in training camp at that time, and my father tore his calf muscle during training camp.
Wow!
But the fight had been postponed, so he basically didn't train for 30 days, and was just doing like stuff on the bike, and they had to shoot him up with lidocaine before the fight so he could stand on his leg.
Wow!
So, he said people that came to see him fight, he wasn't going to go back down and wasn't going to make no excuses.
Right.
So that was a big thing, but I think that for him was a point that he knew it was over, because we saw it then, and when you get older like that, you can't recover as fast, and he had started living his success, letting his success get to his head.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm not training the same way, or not 100% in. I'm changing things up because I really don't need this no more. I've done everything I want to do, but I still love the sport. So that was one of the parts where I saw the decline starting to happen, and then he went down the dark road of drugs and alcohol, and that was kind of a long stretch right there that we had to kind of help pull him back together. And to his credit, man, he turned around, and that's what makes me the proudest of him. For any fights, anything, he's been sober for almost 15 years, and saw that the downside was coming, that the damage was happening to his life, and had the wherewithal to say, okay, you know what, I need to stop this before it destroys me.
Yes, indeed. He's a fellow tourist like myself. My birthday is a day before his. My birthday, May 16th. His May 17th.
Right.
So that was special to me because Dave gave me the name Two Gun, and that, and he was always saying, "You remind me of Ray." You know how Dave used to,
right. Yeah,
you remind me of Ray.
Dave had all the energy.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I know, to us tourists, we bullheaded, but at the same time, we disciplined. When it's time to buckle down and get it together, we're going to get it together. We're going to make mistakes, but we learn from them.
Right, and you're actually right. I think that bullhead, that stubbornness, it works to your advantage and to your disadvantage sometimes.
Exactly. Because I can imagine what you went through, because my son, man, he's a tourist too, but he sometimes he be like, "Dad," he try to give me business advice at times, I don't hear a word he's saying, but he comes to me with some good stuff, man. He was showing me the Forex and everything today. I was impressed, but I didn't want to hear it because it wasn't my idea.
Yeah, I definitely know how that is.
Most definitely, man. What was it like, man? Out here, a lot of people that are not from this area, Potomac is considered like the Hamptons of this area. Right. And, I live in Rockville now, but I'm not in Potomac.
Right.
What was that like, living in Potomac, Maryland?
Man, so that was the one that really threw me, and took me some time to get together and really learn, about the different socioeconomic statuses and the way other people lived. Because coming from Palmer Park, and then we lived in Largo for a while, and I was going to Phyllis C. Williams Elementary School, and there wasn't many white people in my school at all.
Nah.
And that was just school I think might be one.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I moved to a school where there might be one black person.
Right.
So and the whole culture there, is in the way the folks would talk to each other was way different than I was, expecting. And my first week, I got in a fight, got suspended.
Wow.
Because the kid was talking out his mouth the wrong way. So.
Right.
had to happen like that. But I love the community after it figured out, because it gave me more tolerance from other people. I got to learn from those kids. They got to learn from me. I built some great friendships. People I'm still friends with to this day. But I would go back and forth from spend my weekends back in either Leonard or down in Largo.
Right.
But most of the time, I would spend my weekends down there. So
that's right. That's right. You got to go back.
Yeah,
Yes,
I still got to stay home and see my old friends and family and people that didn't reside in Potomac.
Yes, indeed, man. I ride through there all the time, and in the maze, I'd be amazed when I see those houses out there. They are just beautiful, man.
Yeah, somebody just bought our old house.
Oh, they did?
So,
okay.
Yeah, I saw it come up for sale. Somebody sent me a text with the picture. I said, I might have to give me a GoFundMe to buy that thing.
That's right. I ain't mad at you, brother.
I thought about it, but that price tag was a little too high.
Yeah, I can believe it, man. I can believe it, because that was the thing when Ray. That's how we knew what Potomac was. When Ray moved out, that's when we found out about Potomac. Everybody, but Ray's Potomac, Murray. That's where Ray lived at. That's what used to be said back in the days.
Right.
That's where Ray from, Potomac. He lives out Potomac.
Yeah, it's changed up quite a bit now.
Yeah.
Back when we did, it wasn't much out there. They were just starting to build stuff out there, but it wasn't much down.
Yes, indeed, man. Man, I appreciate you coming on here today, brother. You're welcome anytime, and your father's welcome as well. If you would, could reach out to him if you can. We would love to have him on here to give some wisdom for the future.
No doubt. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on. It was great talking, great reminiscing, going back.
Yes, indeed, brother.
It took me back. So
yes, indeed.
I appreciate it, and wish you all the success and everything in the world, man. So keep driving, keep doing your thing, and we'll talk again soon.
Salute to you, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Leonard Jr. Peace and blessings. DC Boxing.
Peace.